The film starts by explaining how Cleopatra owned three priceless gold eggs. After she died, two of the eggs were recovered from her body. However, the third one was never found. Throughout history, these priceless artifacts survived in museums and private collections. However, now someone is after them. FBI agent John is working with Interpol Inspector Das to catch the biggest art thief in the world, Nolan Booth. They all go to a museum where one of the eggs is displayed. John is sure that Nolan is going to steal the egg, but it is still in the museum. This is when John uses a thermal scanner to check the room and finds out that the egg is completely cold. He explains that a gold egg should appear hotter before taking a Coca-Cola and pouring it on top of the egg. The whole egg disintegrates and turns out to be a fake. The museum goes into shutdown and Nolan starts running from the room. John chases him and barely makes it through the closing doors. He's keeping up with Nolan, who loses John after going through a small opening. Many guards are after him, so Nolan climbs up a platform and takes down the guards one by one. However, John pulls a gun at him and Nolan has no choice but to give up. They start talking, and right then, Interpol officers enter the room. This distracts John, and Nolan uses it to jump out of the window. John follows him, and they are both hanging from a ledge. Nolan again slips out of John's hand by going through a pipe. John still keeps following him. However, Nolan is getting away on a bike while John is chasing him in a Porsche. In the end, Nolan manages to get away when John gets into an accident. 56 hours later, Nolan is going to his villa in Bali. He gets a shock of a lifetime when he sees John sitting in his living room with a gun. The villa is surrounded by Interpol, and Nolan is caught red-handed with all his stolen art pieces. John claims that he was told the location of Nolan's villa by another art thief named Bishop. They put Nolan in the back of a van, and John places the egg in a different armed vehicle. However, a masked thief steals the egg from the vehicle under John's nose and replaces it with a fake one. 32 hours later, John is sitting in Rome having a drink when Das meets him. She breaks the fake egg in front of him and tells him that he is the prime suspect. Apparently, she couldn't find any record of him in the FBI database, and $8 million were transferred into his account. John says that he's being set up, but Das decides to put him in a Russian prison. John is even more surprised to see that his roommate is none other than Nolan himself. Nolan tries to be friendly with John, and in the cafeteria, he explains that an Egyptian billionaire is looking to buy all three eggs. He wants to give these eggs to his daughter at her wedding, and the reward is $300 million. He also says that the second egg is in possession of an international arms dealer. After telling John all of this, Nolan starts calling him a cop, which makes all the other prisoners angry. One of the prisoners comes there and starts messing with John and even punches him in the face. The guards stop this madness and take them back to the captain's office. They find out that Bishop controls this prison and she wants Nolan to give her the location of the third egg for a 10% share. She also explains how she removed John's job record and set him up. Nolan refuses the offer, so she decides to leave them in that prison to rot. That evening, John says that they have to get out of that prison and get the second egg before Bishop does. He wants to clear his name, and he's willing to work with Nolan. They are discussing the plans while building the perimeter walls and even in the showers. Nolan says that he has a plan, and at night, John is asking him to share it. He then asks Nolan why he hates his father, and Nolan says that his father accused him of stealing a precious watch when he was just 8 years old. The next morning, Nolan takes a bar of soap and puts it in some detergent to make an explosive device that causes a lot of distraction. They take down the guards one by one, all the while protecting each other. They're running through corridors and encounter a locked door. This is when Nolan uses the key that he stole during the cafeteria fight. They get to the perimeter wall, and Nolan takes out the stone that he placed yesterday to break the wall. They have to scale the wall to get away from the guards, who quickly break down the door and start looking for them. Nolan wants to get to the helicopter that's on the other side of a bridge. John keeps the guards occupied while Nolan keeps running to the helicopter. John keeps shooting at the guards, and he even closes the door by shooting at the locks. However, a guard has brought a rocket launcher and John has to run away. The guard shoots at the bridge and John barely clings onto the broken bridge to save himself. Meanwhile, the helicopter is now in the air and John has to climb up the bridge and jump into the helicopter. They survive another rocket that passes through the open helicopter doors and they eventually escape from that prison. Back in London, Bishop hacks an intelligence office to give Inspector Daz the location of the second egg. Nolan, on the other hand, is picked up by his friend on a private plane. They are going to Venice to steal the second egg. On their way, Nolan explains his whole plan to John. The egg is inside a safe that's hidden behind a cabinet in a library. The door to the safe can only be opened with a phone that's owned by the arms dealer named Sotto Voce. The safe requires Sotto Voce's face, and Nolan has software to get this done. So Nolan will steal Sotto Voce's thumbprint, while John will be responsible for stealing his phone. At the party, Nolan is pretending to be a waiter, while John is walking around in the hallway when he spots Bishop. He goes to confront her even though Nolan asks him not to. He says that she is going to prison, but she tells him he has no jurisdiction in that place. Then they both start dancing in the middle of the hallway, which makes Sotto Voce very jealous. He goes up to them and asks Bishop to dance with him. John uses this moment to steal his phone. Nolan pretends to drop some wine on John's clothes, and the head manager asks Nolan to take John to the washroom. There, Nolan hacks the security cameras. After this, the duo sneaks in between the guards who are patrolling the hallway, and they get into the library. Nolan accidentally breaks the glass that has the thumbprint, so he starts finding the print. Meanwhile, John uses the deep fake to open the safe. After some tries, they end up opening the door. However, Inspector Daz also gets there. She wants to arrest them, but John deceives her and pushes her before running into the safe. They are celebrating their success when they see Bishop, who has snuck into the safe through some other entry. She doesn't want to give up the egg, so they all start fighting with each other. Bishop is really good at hand-to-hand combat, and she easily takes them both down. While they are fighting, Sotto Voce gets there with all his guards. It turns out that Bishop is working with Sotto Voce, and Nolan and John are knocked out pretty soon. They wake up under the Colosseum in a torture chamber. Sotto Voce is there, and Bishop also gets there to explain that she wants Nolan to give her the location of the third egg. Nolan says he won't give her anything, so Bishop decides to torture John because she thinks they are friends. She electrocutes John multiple times, but Nolan doesn't give up the location. Eventually, Sotto Voce starts strangling John, so Nolan agrees to tell. He claimed that the third egg is hidden inside one of the pyramids. Bishop is extremely happy about this, and she wants to have a drink with Sotto Voce. However, Sotto Voce finds out that his drink is drugged, and he passes out. Bishop uses this to take down some guards and get out of the room. When Sotto Voce wakes up, he is very angry at the duo. He starts shooting at them, but he can't aim because he's dazed. Suddenly, John breaks his handcuffs and takes down the madman. They both get out of there and go up the stairs. Sotto Voce is chasing them with a gun. They exit from the underground place and enter the arena where a bull is charging at them. The bull takes down Sotto Voce and also hits John. Nolan asks John to run, and they get out of there before getting killed by the bull. That's when Nolan explains that he lied to Bishop and the egg is somewhere else. He doesn't want to tell the location to John, who gets angry and he almost kills Nolan. He wants Nolan to help him clear his name, so Nolan agrees. He tells John that his father was obsessed with a Nazi art collector who fled to Argentina in 1945. This art collector was rumored to have the third egg. Nolan's father had a watch that was inscribed with the location of this hidden treasure. So Nolan takes John to the jungles of South America. They get to the location, but there's nothing there. At this point, John is too tired, so he throws the compass on the ground and it hits the door of the bunker. They open the bunker that leads to a hidden room. They can see a door, but it's locked. However, Nolan remembers something and takes out the watch, and it turns to be the key to the door. They find all kinds of precious artifacts behind the door, including an extremely rare classic car. They also find the egg inside a box that's literally named Cleopatra. However, Bishop gets there as well. She chased them to this location, but to her surprise, Inspector Das chased all of them as well. The whole Interpol squad is there, and they agree to get the hell out of there. They get in the car and also grab a grenade from there. They use the grenade to open a mine shaft and escape through there while Interpol is chasing them on army vehicles. They are getting shot at, so Nolan jumps to the other vehicle to take down the attackers. He grabs the egg and gets back to the vehicle, but they soon run out of the road. They fall through a waterfall, and somehow Nolan grabs the egg and gets out of the water. He doesn't see John anywhere, and he's worried, so he jumps back into the water, calling for John, who is standing on the shore. Nolan gets out, and they're both teasing each other when Bishop comes out of the water. At this point, Nolan finds out that he's been tricked. John is Bishop's lover and uses Nolan to find all the eggs. They handcuff him to a tree and get out of there with the eggs. Back in Egypt, a royal wedding is taking place, where the billionaire presents his daughter with all 3 eggs. However, the girl is more impressed with Ed Sheeran, who is singing at her wedding. The couple is also there, and they have called Interpol, who arrests the billionaire and takes the eggs back into their custody. 6 months later, John and Bishop are enjoying a romantic getaway on their luxury yacht. That's when Nolan pays them a visit. He explains how Interpol caught him, but he managed to escape the prison one more time. He also tells them that he froze their bank accounts, so now they have nothing to their name. However, he has a job offer that requires 3 people, and he wants them to work with him. Interpol is coming to arrest, so the couple agrees to work with Nolan. The film ends with all 3 of them walking towards the Louvre in Paris.